Do you believe in gender roles?
No, I don't.
Why?
Why should I?
No, I'm saying like as in why? What's your reasoning behind that? Could like as in do you believe in like a certain role is supposed to be assigned to a certain gender?
I don't believe in them. Even Mbakwangu Wanonga are doing my gender roles.
Why? No. As in like, so you're cool with everyone mixing up roles, as in.
Yes.
No. No, if he's a chef, it's okay. If he's a five-star.
Because everyone has got a responsibility of cleanliness.
All right.
So we do not have to put it to mukadzi clean. What about the men?
No, I'm not saying no. Those are life skills. Sarah, so you would be okay with your husband staying at home, right? Well, at least you
take care of the kids. Not a problem.
Take care of the kids.
If I had it my way, I would rather have a stay-at-home husband.
Anyway, guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Bold Exchange. If you are new to this channel, please just press the subscribe button below. I'm joined by one of my president Manyama. Inini personally. And I don't name Nandru, but you know. Linda Masarire. Welcome to The Bold Exchange. There's a picture of you on the internet. Wakafika imwe uniform inawazofika na winki D ye kushkurubi maximum. And then I think you're having a conversation with Nelson Chamisa. What was he saying to you at that particular juncture?
Okay, that's the one I was in Leg Irons, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he had just come to say vakakuisa my Leg Irons. This is primitive, it's archaic. That was basically what he was trying to say. But now that I look at it in retrospect, he had just come for a photo opportunity. Because when I look at it, I've heard a lot of people saying, Linda's turned her back on Chamisa, but Chamisa was there for her when she was in prison. Chamisa never even came to Chikurubi to see me. You only attended that particular court session to take a picture and put it on Twitter. And that is the reality. So maybe he was also sincerely reaching out, but at that time he was concerned about the leg irons that I had, and I also felt that maybe it was a bit too much because I wasn't a criminal, I didn't murder anyone, I didn't steal from anyone, but do you know, I used to go rather court dinema escort vehicles.
What do you mean?
From the prison itself, Chikurubi female prison. Kwaita two motikari pa front the mapurisa. I don't see in riot gear.
Yeah.
Black way. Then motor ya ningediri pakati. Yes, ZPS and two other vehicles kumashuri.
At that particular time, I was kukwata rekana uti. I was good to maruango na ndo buda era.
Kukwata che. Shamari, fear is a demon. If you've got any form of fear in your life, I'm just telling you that fear is a demon. It is.
You are in a maximum prison in Zim, and you're being escorted by police. Apana fear.
Kana. I had no fear at all. To tell you the truth, guy, I felt very important that I was actually being escorted by the police. It taught me that I was important. And it also showed that I was making some people uncomfortable, because if I was not making Robert Mugabe comfortable, there was no reason why the Justice Ministry and the ZPS would make sure that I'm escorted to prison. I was important, and I'm still important. So I learned and decided to appreciate myself more.
So for me to actually understand any human being, I need to have context and earlier context. So I want to know at 18 years old, what is Linda Masarire up to? And at 21 and at 25, what's the world around Linda Masarire?
At 18, Linda was a mother to a son. She also wrote her A-level examinations. She had a worldview. She was starting to appreciate what the world was made up of. Linda started being very interested in political issues at the age of 15. And when she was 18, she joined the MDC. That was in the year 2000. And she was just a member in Bindura. And she was also trying to get over a rape episode. She had a lot of issues. She had anger issues. She didn't understand why things that had happened to her, which she later understood later on that everyone has got a story. And sometimes God will allow certain things to happen in your life for you to use them to help other people later on in life. There was Linda at 18. Linda at 21, she was a career woman and computer technician at Great Face Computers. And that particular year, she moved as well to systems technology, which was run by Daniel Shumba, and she was the sales administrator. She also had a company, Linda's Interiors, and she had bought her first stand in Glenlawn in El Shaddai Drive. And she had everything going on well for her. She was doing her politics, trying to change mindsets and having people to appreciate the shifting winds. And that was about the time where we also had the land reform program, and a lot of people did not understand why it was important for Black people to take back their land. And she had a lot to explain, especially to her peers who were disconnected from the politics of the day. And that was Linda at 21. And Linda at 25, she was now in Bulawayo working at NRZ, and she had faced a lot of challenges, especially to do with women at the workplace, how women are always viewed in gender lenses. I had a lot of challenges as a computer technician in the computer industries that I worked in, where male computer technicians always used to feel that they had a mandate to supervise the work that I'm doing, even if we're at the same level. I also had to fight a lot for my space in the IT sector, where at one point I was earning less than a person who's in the same grade with me. I also had challenges at NRZ when I applied to be an assistant train driver, and I was being told that I'm a woman, I can't work at night, I can't do this, I'll get pregnant. And these are things that I was fighting at the same time, and then I was a mother of two, and there was a lot happening in my life. I had a vision, I had a dream. I wanted to challenge that male domination, because then in the NRZ, driving trains was particularly a male job. And I was one of the very first few women who went into that field doing the shunting, the guard special duties. The guard special is the person who mounts trains, builds trains, moves with them in the section, and if the trains have got a problem, he fixes the train in transit and all that. I was one of the very first few women to do that job in the NRZ, and it wasn't easy, because every day you had to be stereotyped, and especially when I got pregnant in 2008, they would tell you, this is what we're talking about. When women get pregnant, they cannot do this job. And people forget again that being pregnant is actually a national duty. We've got a duty to reproduce for Zimbabwe, which unfortunately most women are not doing in this country.
I can already see the clip when they're clipping that one and they said, we've got a duty to reproduce. So tell me, when you're saying that you're going like toe-to-toe in male-dominated spaces, do you think that what happened to you when you were 18 was what you were trying to actually then heal and fight, and that was what then built that anger towards men at that time? At that particular time, I hate to phrase it as anger or that competitiveness against men.
I think for me, I really need to be honest. I couldn't read tomboy. I was more boyish than girlish. I'm taking it backwards, because I used to have issues with my mother buying me dresses. But I wanted the trousers and whatever.
But at that time, God, that's when there's TLC, the Left Eyes, and everyone was dressing. That was what was cool then. Your Queen Latifahs and your Lauryn Hills were not.
For me, it was just not following particular trends. It was the mindset. I also grew up in Ely Avenue, Greencroft, and I was one of the very few girls in the hood. The rest were boys. I grew up with boys, playing soccer with boys. So my mindset was actually more boyish. I was into cars, into horse riding, you know. And
so you're not daddy's girl, you're daddy's buddy.
I was daddy's blue-eyed girl.
Right.
And then I still am.
So, okay, you come off as very spiritual from whether it's from a Christian or African perspective, or however you want to frame that, or however spiritual means to you, does that then make you patriarchal, and does that make you support patriarchy?
I'm a very spiritual person. I will never run away from that. I believe in my spirituality. I believe that everything about me is guided by my spirituality. And I do not subscribe to patriarchy, neither do I subscribe to matriarchy. I believe that there is somewhere that both male and female people can meet and they can interact as equals to build a society, to build a nation, and to build a world.
And speaking of spirituality, define that. When you say spirituality, is it, and I hate to call it ATR, is it our African concept of spirituality, or is it neocolonialism concept of spirituality?
I believe that there's one supreme God.
Okay.
And I believe that as an African person, I've got my own ancestors who are intermediators between me and my supreme God, and that I can also speak to my Musikabano on my own, but I also have guardians who look after me, who are my ancestors, who were there before me. So I believe in Africanism and Afrocentric ways of worshiping, and that is me, because I cannot define myself by how another race used to connect to their God. Ini wangu mwari ndi Musikabano, akasika pasi nedenga, akasika zviro zvese zviri panyika, ndiye mwari wangu. That is the supreme being. And I believe that those who were before me have also a role to play in my own life. Pachivano chaipo katotarisisa unogona kutonzwa muno matown because of chirungu and all that asichesiko kakawanda. But kwa mamisha ungononzwa kuti uyu anoita sasekuru ningi vaya vanenge vakafa kawanti 3-4 decades ago, or from another generation. I believe that there's also a reincarnation of those other spirits that were before us, that they'll come back to life in another life. I believe in that.
So, do you feel that the colonial project was so successful that they brainwashed us to then frown upon? Because the minute you say that, you will then hear headlines say, nah, Linda is not she's antichrist, or you know what I mean, like just hypothetically that's how people view it. So do you feel like we are doing a disservice to our kids when we don't teach them to grow in this? And do you feel like people are turning away from their own traditional culture because of the easier option of just getting down on your knees and praying? Where are we getting it wrong in this?
The shocking part, before I answer your question, is most people actually connect with their ancestors, but privately, in quotes. Avasikuda kuonekwa kuti they are doing this. They are ashamed, but they know kuti this exists. If we didn't know, I don't think taishedzana nemutupo, because mutupo yedu connects us to our ancestral lineages. If we do not believe in our African systems, I don't believe kuti taenda kunobvisa mateke nyandevu mombe dzoumai what because zvese izvozvo zvine ma-African connotations zvine chirevo pachivanhu. Our biggest crisis as African people is identity crisis, not wanting to let go of everything foreign, in quotes. The colonization agenda worked. When you want to colonize a person, you start with what is most dear to them, which is their spirituality. You disconnect them from anything that is valuable to them. That is why today timisoro yemhomwe dzemasvikiro edu dzichiriko kuma museum ku Britain. If you go kuma museum ku Britain, America, Mexico, and different countries, they've got things that were used spiritually by different African countries in their museums, because they were trying to disconnect us from those things that connect us with our ancestral lineages. I always go back to the Bible itself, to those who call themselves Christians. Vanoudzwa kuti God of Abraham, God of David, God of Jacob, God of Isaiah, God of Esau, God of what? That was the ancestral lineage of Jesus. And they respect that. And today's Christian actually worships those ancestors of Jesus, but shuns his or her own ancestors. Are not very demonic. But Achinama, God of Abraham, God of Isaiah, God of David. Isaiah, David, and everyone is not demonic because they are in the Bible. There's a total disconnect.
And how do we fix that?
I think we've got a long way to go. I'm happy countries like Rwanda have come in and said we're going to have to stop some other religions for our people to reconnect to their own religion. We've got countries like China who are very clear about their mode of worship and what they believe in. We've got countries like India. See what Rishi Sunak did when he was sworn in to be the prime minister. Akaenda kanoita chivanhu chake cheku India padore pa 11 Downing Street. Jacob Zuma used to do chivanhu chake chechizulu. Saka munhu ega anofanira kuzvifila mukati make kuti izvi ndandichiita for all this while. Zviri kusevha ma-interest angu here, zviri kundisimudzira here, zviri kundikonekta naMwari here. Our biggest problem is we have not yet been decolonized. We are still colonized mentally. And as long as we have not yet accepted ourselves as African people, with their own beliefs, values, and structures, hapana zvatiri kuita. Because the moment we continue connecting nezvisiri zvedu, we will not find ourselves. We will not discover the beauty in us and how good we are at a lot of things, because we are always emulating the West. And we also forget that the West that we emulate every day was built on the sweat and the blood of more than 1.2 million Africans who were taken as slaves in Britain and America.
I think that figure is actually increasing now. It's only that they then cover it with cool terms like nest aid and war. But anyway,
exactly.
Let's talk women in politics. Let's talk politics actually, just not women in politics. I believe. Is there a chance to have an alternative voice in Zimbabwe, or we are a two-party state?
Currently, Zimbabwe is still a two-party state, even though there have been efforts for the past decade or so to have plurality in politics. And I think we are getting somewhere near there where people are now realizing that a two-party state does not work. And it is work in progress. And it also needs the electorate itself to start thinking outside the box, to start also looking for alternatives that are issue-based. The biggest tragedy we've had in Zimbabwean politics is our politics has always been politics of personalities. We're looking at the personality ahead, the charisma that particular political leader has. Okay, I understand. We had Robert Mugabe.
All right.
He was a very charismatic leader, and people were in love with his charisma. And he ran down this country with his charisma. We've got Nelson Chamisa, a very charismatic leader with zero leadership qualities. Charisma does not lead a nation. It will only take you where you want to be, filling up stadia. And that is what Zimbabweans are particularly interested about. Chodi whatever nature. Chozata stadium. But arikugona here kutungamirira. Arikugona here kupagwara. Because leadership strength is shown in how you lead. Pamba pako. Mupati mako. If your house is burning and there's chaos in your own part, and you're failing to contain that chaos, at intra-party level, we can never give you the nation to run because you've failed to sort out simple issues at party level. I always give an example which a lot of people are uncomfortable with. ZANU-PF has had issues for years, intra-house. The only time that their issues spilled out and there was a split was during the 2017 coup military takeover, whatever. But even after that, there are issues in ZANU-PF, but they are contained within ZANU-PF. They are managed within ZANU-PF, and the party goes on. When elections come, cherovane issues avakaita say, one thing I've observed in ZANU-PF, vanobatana vese vodefenda chinchavo. Because kunenge kuine leadership kumberi. But kana pasina leadership, chinchunongo mwashuka vanhu vachingoita zvavari kuda, because amuna vision, amuna ideology, and amuna leadership. But right now, chero ukaenda kanisa mafaction ekuzanu, they will tell you that they've got something to defend, which is number one, the party, number two, the revolution. And they will defend that with their mind. Chero vaine ma views avakasiyana. But when you do not have an ideology and you don't have a leader, apana kwa mnenge mchienda, that is the reality.
Where do you think Nelson Chamisa got it wrong in these previous elections?
I think he personalized the party too much. He turned it into a Chamisa project. He disregarded other people's efforts. When you're leading people, you also have to ensure that you maintain those that also make your name have value. I've always given an example. After 2017, if ED had dropped vanachina masa, vanampofu, vanani achiti vanhu vabob, daichakamwashuka footage. But he knew that these people, I can't leave them behind. They're important for my journey. Chamisa and Nzanzi failed to have that wisdom. To know that there are some people who are important, like Tendai Biti, like Osho. They're important for his journey. But the moment when you have people who you think that are challenging you, and you drop them and you think that they are not important. Wafungoti, they are not important. You drop people who believe in them as well and make sure that they are not candidates. Wapunza wega chunchako, and you've got no one to blame. That is where he got it wrong. Failure to accommodate those leaders that are internationally accepted and saying, this is my journey, I'm going to move it this way. And failure to have proper recognizable structures. Because I've had several meetings with ambassadors and whatever, and they would ask, if this colleague of yours does not have a treasurer, when money comes in, who will be handling the finances? Those are questions that the international community will be asking. But he would hide behind his strategic ambiguity. But internationally, akatoluza wofuti that integrity. Because he showed that he had not capacity to have proper structures and frameworks in place in terms to do with accountability and transparency. Because that is what also the international community will look at, which unfortunately CCC followers never looked at. Kuti saka funding national party share account was saying, how are we going to do with the transparency issues? You also failed to steer a ship to collective leadership, where you've got different and dissenting voices. Because for me to be a good leader, Alex, I need people who tell me when I'm wrong. But if I want to surround myself with people who are saying, I'm rich, even when I'm wrong, in a leadership journey, you need constructive criticism. You need those who take you up to the task. You need those who challenge you. Because in any dikaita leader panapa, pasai dipangu mashure mangu, musina munhu wandochka kuti uyu achanditorera power. I relax. I need to have those people in my leadership journey. Henry mazono achiri kuseva. If I don't pull up my stockings, Henry going to overtake me. You need those people who challenge you in your leadership. But if you say you just want the yes-say people, the yes-say, wasiane ine leadership yekuzahana, the Shefuism mantra, Mugabe failed because of this. Hakuna munhu aigona challenge Mugabe. There's no one who could go and tell Mugabe kuti muri kukanganisa pakati. So I think he copied the wrong textbook, and if he wants to survive another day, he has to reconsider some decisions that he has made.
Do you think Tendai Biti can actually form a party and be successful?
No, he can't.
Why do you think he can't?
He has tried it before and he failed. Tendai Biti is not a people person.
But first you don't succeed, dash yourself up and try again.
Tendai Biti ana charisma. Vanhu vemuno they follow charisma.
You know what will be charisma.
No, do not kukupa my insights on the Zimbabwean context.
All right.
If it was in a country where people listen to ideas and solutions, Tendai Biti would be a successful political leader because he's got the brains. But nyika yedu ine vanhu vanonakirwa nekunzwa majokes nezvinhu zvisipo. Saka so long you're not that person achanosekesa vanhu parali uchitaura nyambo uchidii, you will not succeed in this country. People don't have time to interrogate real issues. Vanda zvinhu zvingonakidza zveipapo ipapo. And that is why this country is not going anywhere. Welsh, I think anouraiwa ne location.
Constituency that he represents.
Yes.
All right.
And as much as a lot of people don't want to have this conversation, it's a conversation that we are supposed to have at some point in our lives. We are all Zimbabwean. It doesn't matter whether you're Kalanga, you're Xhosa, you're Sotho, you're Tonga, you're Shona, uri Mundau, uri Msamanyika, uri Chi. As long as we keep on calling ourselves by our tribal names, we're going to continue having challenges in this country. Secondly, we need to do away with provinces that are named according to tribes. Mashonaland, Matebeleland. Those are things that entrench tribal divisions amongst us. Thirdly, kune kama kahumu so kanondisemesa kekunzati ngatungamirirwe nemundebele muno. Ndebele munhu. And I do not believe that at this particular time in our lives, there's anyone who's 100% Shona, if there's anything called Shona, because I don't believe that there's anything called Shona, because it was a name that was coined by some professor weku Rhodesian University, vachida kuti group into one group. But we accepted it. What is Shona? What does it even mean? Kune Mukaranga, kune Manyika, kune Mukorekore, kune Mundau, kune Chi. But you know, akuna pure breeds at this stage in our lives. There have been so many cross marriages, cross pollination of people and whatever. In any Japan, I can tell you, with the intermarriages that have happened in my maternal family and my paternal family, akuna one person angabuda with pure breed kuti ndiri Mukaranga, ndiri Mundebele, ndiri Chi, because we've got tine Xhosa, tine Ndebele, tine Tonga, we've got all those people in our family, maternal and paternal. So this thing of wanting to say, hey, we Mundere, we Chi, I think these are things we need to do away with. Start cultivating a love revolution that we are all Zimbabwean. It does not matter which tribe you're from. But let's look at ourselves as Zimbabwean first. The moment we start looking at ourselves as Zimbabweans, we will harness all the potential from all the corners of Zimbabwe to make Zimbabwe a better place. Maybe we've been closing out Welshman Ncube. Maybe was the leader that we're supposed to have would take us out of the quagmire we're in. So at the end of the day, we need to find ourselves as Zimbabwean people and stop labeling ourselves according to tribes. Stop labeling ourselves according to where we are coming from. I've also heard a lot of people from Manicaland crying foul kuti they're always closed out when it comes to political leadership. So at the end of the day, we've got a lot of things that we need to learn and unlearn. But the biggest thing that we need to learn as Zimbabwean people is to love each other. To stop looking at ourselves as Indiri Mukaranga, Indiri Rashumba, Indiri Murozvi, Indiri Chakati. Those are things that are keeping us backward. Those are things that are failing meritocracy. Because at the end of the day, when our chatarisi meritocracy, kuti, what can Henry do? And Henry akula ndava, Mundebele, ngati momisa ya. Undiani, ano erei, hayeri moyo ndiso, sakati momisa ya. Let's start building our country as one people with one love and one identity.
From what you are saying right now, I can feel and I'm hearing a lot of growth and a lot of maturity in what you say. And do you think that you stand a chance of being a president of this country on your own ticket, or you will have to then get on a ZANU ticket or on a PDP, NDP, CCC, and whatever when the next elections are coming?
I believe that I am a leader whose time has not yet come. Why do I say that? Zimbabweans are not yet ready for the truth. Zimbabweans are not yet ready for transformation. Zimbabweans are not yet ready to build. Zimbabweans are still in a fake comfort zone where they would rather follow a personality, where they will not agree to decide that we need to converge to build our country. But Zimbabweans are muzvikwata. It's not only in politics. Yenda kana kuma church. Ukaenda pa a space yakakura unge kubva panapa kusvika paparenyatwa. Unogona kuona amachechi emasowe kana 10. Pamwe pane 5, pamwe pane 15. Atisati takugona kuita zvinhu as a collective. There's always that one person who comes in and says, I am the one. We need to take off the I am the one mantra and say, what can we do collectively? I've said this to a lot of my political colleagues. But the day we start harnessing the power that each and every one of us has and put it together, we'll be able to build a brighter Zimbabwe. But as long as we still have the mantra ndini chete, apana kwatinosvika. Because chara chimwe hachitswanyainda. We need inclusive, transformative politics in this country that identifies potential, that identifies merit, that says, no, I am the president of this country. Alex Ndewe Kuchimuti part, he could be a good finance minister. I'm going to incorporate him into my cabinet. Henry is coming from Leeds.
Unozati producer wangu asarambotaura matauriro episode.
I'm just giving you my examples. Henry, Leeds. But no, this guy is good in what he's doing in Comedia. Let's make him PS Information Ministry. We need that level of maturity, of inclusivity, for us to be able to harness the potential that we have. Why we're also having a lot of brain drain in this country. A lot of people feel they've got a lot to offer. But we will not consider you because hausi camp made. We are failing to understand that we cannot all think the same. We cannot all want the same things. We are people who are comfortable in primitive accumulation of wealth at a personal level. Munhu wese ari kumhanya unotsvaga kuti idini salinda ndikasvika apa ndikunowana chii. We don't have people who are ready to save, to make things better in this country. And because of that, zvinhu zvese zvinongovharirwa around a certain grouping of people at the expense of progress and transformation. So isusu sevanhu tine zvinhu zvakawanda zvatiri kufanirwa kuchinja at a personal level. Kunopusha maleaders edu kuti aiwa I'm president ndingiburi kutadza pakati. Why don't we try doing things this way? And I think that is important for us to go forward. We also need to push this. Kuna the sitting president yava Mnangagwa. Because there's a lot of potential out there. But mukaramba makangotarisa kuti alright, ndimi makawina tikuzviziva. Ndimi mune majority tikuzviziva. But kunzoko kune potential yakawanda. Inogona kuti nyika iende mberi. Kana muchiti vene muri kureva vanhu veZANU-PF here kana kuti vene vana veZimbabwe. We need to understand that. Because kana vene vari vana veZimbabwe, imi ndimi baba, you're driving the ship. Muri kuonawo here vamwe vene vari mukati menyika umu vane potential. Kana mungoti makungotarisa venyu vari mukati mepamadho. Because when he became the president of this country, he is not the president of ZANU-PF. He is the president of Zimbabwe. And as such, whatever programs he has should serve all Zimbabweans, regardless of political affiliation.
Like, speaking of divergent views, I've seen you've gotten into a lot of Twitter battles with people. You've got scars. You're a veteran on the Twitter streets, right? There's something that happened recently that really caught my eye and got me thinking that if you address someone in a particular way, I personally, I'm a firm believer of all is fair in love and war. If you address someone in a particular way, when you get served the same measure, do you have the right to then play victim? In the case of, say, Ray Vine replies telling someone, because I mean, if you declare war on someone, you mustn't then say no, you must come with toothpicks, don't come with actual bullets. I don't know, what's your take on how we engage and how we interact online and the arms that we use if it's a fair confrontation online?
I believe that we do not even need to be confronting each other in the manner that it happens online in this country. There's too much skullduggery, tomfoolery, insults, vulgar language, you name it. And most of that is really unnecessary. But I've also realized that most of the people who pride themselves in that have got zero content. Contributor. And to them, the easier thing is to just insult. Because Hana are empty. I don't believe that any intellectual person would actually waste their time actually typing such nonsensical issues. Like the issue you raised, Yana Reva and Anna Solomon, I deliberately did not comment because Solomon Wacho is very toxic. Very toxic. Even though the commentators were touch on a certain grouping of people, which was wrong, I believe, Kuti, we can all do better as Zimbabweans. We can all do better. Because the moment we start taking sides, we'd say we are so die, we say now so die. I believe that, like I said earlier, we can cultivate a love revolution. We can all argue, debate without insulting each other, without calling each other names. We will all never think the same. Even if we are born in the same family, we will never all want the same things. I know of a lot of families, one support a triple C, but they're still family. If they're still family born by the same mother and same father, why do you hate each other? For the why? I've known a lot of people with divergent views. We come from different families, or different churches, but they're still family. So why do we have kutukana, kushorana, pull each other in the mud, roll each other for what? Because once to maintain that, we will not be able to work together to build the Zimbabwe that we want. Because we spend most of our time insulting each other instead of coming up with solutions or ideas that can make Zimbabwe a better place.
Do you think politics is a scam?
It is.
Tell us how the trick works, the inner workings, since you are a participant of this very lucrative scam.
I should say, for me, what really made me get into active politics or to form a party is my desire to change the status quo. Because I realized that I can't change the status quo when I'm not in the matrix of things. What do I mean when I say we need to change the status quo? We need to change the governance system, the education system, the judiciary system, and basically the way we're doing almost everything. As of today, was borrowed from the colonial master. There's nothing about us, nothing that identifies us as Black African people. I believe that if we go Afrocentric on everything, have our own systems and our own way of doing things, we'll be able to solve this Eurocentric political scam that we have across Africa. It's not ours, we don't understand it. It's capitalist in nature, it closes out people. We have in situations where there's primitive accumulation of wealth by the political elite because the system allows it.
Uchiti primitive political accumulation of wealth. Pane one figure, but continue.
You see, saying the system allows it. It was created like that. Vanda Smith into Saka, we can't change it. Even Umaka Pinda. After varipo yao, vanongoshika the same things because the system what allows it. We need to have a strong system in order support collective growth of vanvese, each benefit. But what we have is a capitalist system that was left by white capital monopoly, of which we are still existing in white capital monopoly. It's about us protecting our interests as African people. In other countries, so long you're not a native in that country, you cannot have shares akawandisa in the food industry in that particular countries. Why do they do that? They're protecting their people. It's a state security issue. There are some things that we do not pay attention to because But kukauya munhu ari kuda kuti ita wipe out in this country, we can die in less than a week. And those are the realities. We need to look at, number one, the interest of Zimbabwean people. Who is running the food industry? Who's running the water industry? Mvura idzodzo dzatinomwa zhinji takamhena kutsvaga makambani ari kuprodusa mvura iyoyo ndianani. We do not pay attention to critical issues. In countries like America, my bottling companies, they are particular about that because they are concerned about the welfare of their own people. We do not even look at the foods that are coming into this country. Right now we're having GMO seeds that are affecting our soil, that are affecting health. But people are not paying attention to that. We have been speaking, we've been talking. Our own government is accepting those seeds. Our own traditional seeds, chayo. Kwangwa kutodakuswa mutemo unzi ambobano. But traditional seeds, redu waitu ukarima, ukaruomesa wainorejigara futi. I am a GMO seeds to anyone who thinks I'm lying. Ukarejigara izo uruomesa ukorejigara next year unoti no bude. Ari bude. Ane genetic sequencing. Ane zvainazvo, zvaanofana kuita muva. But we are not alive to these things because we're not paying attention to important things. We are people excitable in nonsense about social media, but a lot is happening in the food industry.
All right, I totally get you. And you said something very interesting. You say we need to start a love revolution. Speaking of this love revolution things, what's the most romantic thing that your husband has ever did for you in 2023? Why are you blushing? No,
he has done a lot of things. So I'm thinking, what is the most romantic thing that he's ever done? My husband is romantic almost every day, so I can't really pinpoint on this particular time. This was the most romantic thing that he did, because he's romantic almost every day. But
Mazvinza ari romantic.
I found love in the right place at the right time when I had given up on love, but I found my soulmate. Ndinodiwa. Ndinodiwa. Saka kuti ndi pinpoint because I'm loved every day. Every day is Valentine's Day for me. Even chero tikatsamwidzana, I don't think tinopedza more than 4 hours tikatsamwidzana nemurume wangu. Azviite.
What's your parenting style?
I'm a liberal.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? I allow my children to follow their own path. I don't want to dictate to them what they should do with their lives. I give guidance when needed. Secondly, I teach my children to respect each other. Kumba kwangu kuna gender roles. Kutorine vantoita roster ravo vega. Vantozoti nasi ningi ndiari kukoroba, nasi ningi ari kutsvaira, nasi ningi ndiari dai. That's me. I teach children to be independent. I don't want them to be clingy and believe that everything has to come from their mother. My daughter in Form 3, she's now in Form 4. Ane poetry project yake, anoita ukudze mazai. My son in Form 4 as well. Ane onion project yake, remember onions. I want them to be independent because I always say to myself, I can die anytime. But my children need to know how to make money. I've also told my daughters that you need to be able to buy your own things like your mother.
So, speaking of your daughter, the president had used presidential powers in a room full of legislators to say we cannot have people smiling and wearing suits and coming here and saying it's okay and it's in the law for you guys to sleep with 14-year-olds and 16-year-olds. What do you say about that? Kuti now at least Patu amendwa that, and we have had more than 44 years of independence where people were actually being voted in and out, and they still were leaving girls being married at 16, being married at 12.
If you remember very well, 2 years ago, I was actually at loggerheads with some CSOs, some MPs, because I'm one of the very few people who actually petitioned Parliament to stop that access to sexual reproductive health at 12 years. and consent to sex at a very tender age, which was an agenda that was coming from somewhere outside Zimbabwe, and some MPs had been paid and CSOs. And
my pushback on that,
Yes.
my pushback on that is these kids are actually having sex at a very early age.
Wait.
So would we
They
rather
were supposed to access without parental. There was the motion was any person at the age of 12 can go and access sexual reproductive health, whatever facilities, whether it's condoms, kunorapwa siki, what,
morning
whatever,
afters,
contraceptives, without a parent. And for me, that was a no-no, because that was going to take away the parenting role from the parent. It was going to allow children to have sex willy-nilly. They were also pushing for condoms to be put in schools and all that. And from my perspective, I realized that they were taking away the right of children to be children and allowing them to venture into things that they're not yet ready for. And an argument that came from a lot of people was the children are already doing it. But it was not all the children who were doing it. And we could not go and legalize something as immoral as that because there were some naughty children doing it.
So I have to pause you there, guys. If you guys have been offended by this conversation, it's okay. If you guys were inspired and you want to see more, it's okay, guys. We'll have Linda Masarire back here by December. You're watching the Bold Exchange. And just before I go, parting question. So we're having an influx of drugs, and you're having majizma nakawanda chibato achiriliswa, and this is because there's a lack of codification when it comes to like how we charge these people, because I'm sure in Zimbabwe there is no law that says that if you are caught with cocaine you get how many years. How then do we tackle that issue?
It's an issue that I am actually writing a paper for to the Parliament of Zimbabwe, because I have tried through many channels, from the health ministry to the medical controls authority of Zimbabwe. I even had to go to the UZ, because from the medical controls of Zimbabwe they said we do not know the classification of particularly Ntoriro, because I was moving for the Ntoriro drug to be classified as an illegal and dangerous drug. And I realized that there's a lot of bureaucracy in having that done. Our government is not sincere, and I believe that they're putting lipstick on a pig by saying when there are no proper laws in place to that. So I am working with a paper with some interested parties on actually getting the Criminal Codification Act, statutes for drug possession, drug peddling, and drug dealing, because somehow, somewhere, from the intel that I have, most of the people actually bringing in these drugs are political elites and socialites who are protected. And because it is affecting the populace of this country, we need to hold our hands together as Zimbabwean people and say, we do not care who's doing this. We need sanity to prevail in our country.
5 things that you like about Zimbabwe.
I love that Zimbabwe is peaceful. You can go anywhere, anytime, and enjoy yourself. Number 2, we've got very good weather. I love that about our weather. Number 3, I love Zimbabwe because when we've got very nice people, if they really want to be nice. Number 4, I love Zimbabwe because I was born in Zimbabwe and I'm Zimbabwean. Number 5, I love Zimbabwe because I'm Zimbabwean.
Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for coming through. Tanga tambono verify kuna chabisa tumsendera clip or told that I don't know what she bude kana. Thanks a lot for coming through. We really appreciate it.